My name is Lauren Boyd, and I'm the associate pastor here at Arvada United Methodist Church, and I'm so glad that you're here on this beautiful Saturday to celebrate John Marx. If you're watching online, we want to welcome you. Watching this at any time, we are so pleased that you are able to do that as well. We gather in this place to give thanks to God for our John, to pray for ourselves in our time of grief, and to commend John to God's care and keeping. Let us take a moment of silence as we come before God. Eternal God, we praise you for the company, the great company of all who have finished their course in faith and now rest from their labor. We praise you for those dear to us with whom we name in our hearts before you. Especially we praise you for John, whom you have graciously received into your presence. To all of these, grant your peace. Let perpetual light shine upon them and help us so to believe where we have not seen, that your presence may lead us through our years and bring us at last with them into the joy of your home, not made with hands, but eternal in the heavens. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, amen. Although our prelude was some great 50s favorites of John, we are going to sing some hymns this afternoon that are some favorites of his sister. So I invite you to stand as you're able, and there are hymnals in front of you, the big purple ones. If you'll turn to 378, we're going to sing the first three verses of Amazing Grace. 378. Seated. And now I'm going to read a poem from Khalil Gibran. It's from The Prophet. You would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl, whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day, cannot unveil the mystery of the light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling? Shall he wear the mark of the king? Yet he is not more mindful of his trembling. For what is it but to die? To die, but to stand naked in the wind and melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing, but to free the breath from the restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then you shall truly dance. Now is the time for some memories. We're going to hear from 4 people today, but at our reception after this, we'd love to hear from all of you. We know you have so many stories. Some you can share and some you probably can't, but we look forward to hearing those. First, I invite Jeff Jones to come forward.
Hi, I'm Jeff Jones, and I had the great privilege to be a friend of John's for 45 years. We were able to talk and reminisce throughout his journey here and through his hospice ordeal. And so we went over some good memories and recollections of each other. We had a great friendship, and those of you that knew us together, we kidded each other and razzed each other. And I'd like to share a little bit of what John and I shared together, and also some things from me, and I'll try hard to be brief. But as you know, John had a great personality. I mean, he was open, fun, positive, caring, helpful, and stubborn. Right, Brenda? The trait I loved the most about John and had the most fun with, and all of you are going to agree with this, he was quirky. It's that quirky personality, and I used to tell him all the time he put the Q in quirky. And he would tell me normal is just the setting on the hairdryer. And we'd have fun with that all the time. We met on August 25th, 1980. Whew. Brand new police officer, City of Westminster, early 20s. We're babies, basically. And hopefully you'll see a picture of some of this. There's a picture of us being sworn in. John lived in Boulder. John went to CU of Boulder, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But he came that first day, and how I got to meet him. Long hair, mustache, and he had this shirt, but he had that one button down where that chest hair was showing. And so that was my recollection. We talked about that. He remembers, they called me hairspray because I have fine hair, but I had hairspray a lot. And so John and I, we went to the academy together, got hired together. We went to there was quite a few, if you're here in law enforcement's paramilitary or regular police academies in the state back then, but police departments tried to get you in the fastest they could. Well, we didn't get lucky. We went to a paramilitary academy in the state that was a stress-related academy. Inspections every morning, shine the shoes, very physical, very mental. You're talking about 20-some-year-old kids. So we got through that together. We graduated, thank God, and went to the training program. Not together, but at the police department. Keep in mind, we're in our 20s, and we were got trained together. Matter of fact, you'll hear from Rich and Frank in a few minutes. That's Rich's training officer. And I think mine is here today also. But we went through all this together, and that's how we bonded. If you know anything about law enforcement, when you get hired together, it's when you get hired with somebody, you kind of have a bond with them throughout your career. And then if you go to the academy with people, you have that bond with them. We had that bond, 45 years. John will tell a story that I kid him a lot about him and that shirt and that open thing. He remembers the hairspray. We used to land helicopters for medics, or Flight for Life back then, and my hair wouldn't move when I landed them. And John literally would call rookies over and say, hey, watch this. And a sergeant picked up on it, and then I got this nickname, Hairspray Jones. But that's John. We just had a great relationship. My daughter is here. She was born about a year after we started. He's been in her life. Matter of fact, she still calls him Uncle John. Sorry. And from asking about her through her life, pictures, knowing her, then I had grandkids. And John and I get together. Don't ask a grandparent how their grandkids are doing. Out would come the pictures. He'd want to know about them. That was my friend John. You may have seen that John got a degree in microbiology, right? CU at Boulder. What? And he became a police officer. Well, what happened there is what happens to a lot of us. We take a ride along with the police department. John did it with the Boulder County Sheriff's Department. I did it. You're hooked. I was in banking, going to set the world on fire financially. John worked briefly with the Boulder County Sheriff's Department, and we're hooked. That's kind of the microbiology with John. He always wanted to be a microbiologist. Guess where? Either in California or Florida where Disneyland was, or Disney World. But he became a cop. We did those. We were great friends. You might notice I'm wearing a pink shirt. I've never worn a pink dress shirt in my life. John, most of his career was in crime prevention, public information, and media relations, and he excelled at that. He started wearing pink shirts, and this is Jeff, and I razzed him. And most of my career was in operations. I was in uniform, a lot of plainclothes assignments, and every time he wore it, I would razz him. Well, as soon he'd come find me when I worked, when he wore that pink shirt, and he would, hey, look what I'm wearing. When I talked to him a couple weeks before the end, he told me, Jeff, you're buying a pink shirt, you're wearing it. So, John, here's my pink shirt. The CU Boulder thing, John was so proud of CU. Drove me crazy, but my wife went there. But the first time we started talking about that, I did this. I told him I went to MIT. Wow, huh? And he believed it for a little while. And then he found out that I didn't go to MIT. And he said, you didn't go to MIT. Did any of you go to Metro State, downtown Denver? Metro in town, MIT. John still remembered that. We still chuckle about that today. And if you went to Metro State and somebody's bragging about their big college, use MIT. Those of you that really know it, Steve McDonald's here, Rich and Franca. Last several years, we had coffees together. John and I really didn't agree politically a lot. If you knew John, we pretty moderates, but we had some great political discussions. Coffee or whatever it was. And they were good. Too bad in America Day we couldn't do that. We knew we were still great friends, but I saw that and I went for it a lot of times. We would be at coffee and he was filling his oats and I'd bring up one or two political things and off we'd go about politics. And even to the last, and Steve was there, a week or so we were there, we were still, I did it on purpose and whatever was going on, I just nailed him with it. And he was really, really good about it. Given that political thing in mind, I retired John retired after about 23 years. I stayed 40 and I left a few years ago. And John knew that on my bucket list, and you're all going to be shocked, is I wanted to run for city council. And you're thinking, what are you thinking, right? 40 years with a city, well, I wanted to give back still. A lot of colleagues, friends, family supported me. John took it a step further. Those little annoying door hangers that you get on your doors, political season time, I got a little bit of a late start trying to do that the first time. And John, I had about 2 months to do it, roughly 2.5. John took time out of his week, a day or 2 days a week, and walked with me. My wife and my daughter helped, but my wife would be the crew chief. She'd park us at a block, top of a block, left or right. Of course, we joked around, which way do you want to go, John? And he'd laugh, I'm only going on the right, or on the left. You go on the right. And I said, John, it'd be good for you if you come over to the right occasionally. But that was John. I walked 12,000 homes. And John was a big part of that. We had a bunch of donut breaks and coffee, but I can't thank him enough for helping me to do that. And as you know, John, and you're going to hear this, he loved everything Disney. I mean, from the clothes to the jackets to the jewelry, the figurines, Disneyland, Disney World, Disney cruises, and boy, did I have fun with that, from the jackets. But what you may not have known, he applied to Disneyland twice in his young life. Customer service, that's John. He wanted to get into that with Disneyland. John, you may not have known, how many of you knew he went to Butler School? And I said Butler School. How many knew that? Yeah, John went to Butler School. It was like a 9 or 10-week class. Actually, my wife, Carol, and I got to go to the graduation years ago. Why do you think he went? To be a butler? No, he went to learn more about a unique type of customer service. It was about a 9 or 10-week course, and God bless John, he negotiated the price with the director. It was like a $10,000 class, and what he did is he negotiated to teach part of it and helped set up some conventions they were having a few months later, and he got that class free. But that's who John was. He just wanted to give back. I think I left my book. Carol, hold that book up real quick. John wrote a book. He wrote a couple of books. One he wrote, and it's in his obituary, How to Survive in a Career in Law Enforcement. He was huge into that, and I think others will probably talk about that. But one of the books he wrote was that Penny Planner. How many knew he did that? About, I don't know how many years ago, and I walked into restaurants, coffee shops. I can't tell you how many places I walked in with John. And either he was in front of me or whatever, but this time I happened to be behind him, and he dropped something. I said, John, you dropped something, and it's a penny. I said, John, what are you doing? And he explains to me, I want to put a smile on people's faces. And we talked about it. That's what he's been doing it for a long time, and I never knew about it. And he's probably doing it why he let me in first, you know what I mean? And you may notice I dropped quite a few out in front of the church when I came in. But that was John, and he wrote a book about it, about Penny Planner. And a lot of people think, because I kidded him around, well, do you get on your hands and knees and flip it over to heads to make, good luck, bad luck? He said, nah, don't worry about that. He said, I just want to put a smile on people's faces. And if I come out and it's still on tails, maybe somebody didn't want it, if nobody's looking, I'll flip it over. I asked him, I said, well, do you do the dirty pennies? No, I went to the mint and bought a bunch of brand new ones, so they're shiny, and those are the ones I used. It's really infectious. You should try it. Pennies now are what? They don't mint them anymore. I got my daughter didn't know about his book. I gave him the book. My daughter and grandkids now. I encourage you, you got pennies in your glove box or whatever. I mean, we're not circulating them. Let's distribute them to others. Put them on the ground when you go into places, and just let's remember John. I'm gonna have a little fun with you here, Brenda. You probably all know that John had 2 phones, and she knows where I'm going here. I was with John, thankfully, the last day, and after he passed, and after the emotions. What can I do, Brenda? Probably too soon. It was a few hours later, but what can I do? And I said, hey, can I help make calls? People I know, let them know. And she said, no, I'm going to take his phones, business and personal, and I'm going to make contacts that way, all right? And I'll just go down the list, take me a little while. I said, okay, if you need help. Now, think about your cell phone. How many contacts do you think you have in that cell phone? couple of hundred. Guess how many John had? Ready? 4,537. 4,537. Here's the problem. He also had a business phone. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh. Luckily, she said they're both the same. So trying to make notifications, Brenda refused to do the threads. Do you know what I'm talking about? You get those threads, and then all hours, days and nights and days, even though you're still getting the threads, she would not do that. God bless her. So you may have got notification, depending upon the alphabet for a while. Look at John, 4,537 contacts. One of the things John did want me to is the labyrinth outside. It's right outside the church. Everybody know what I'm talking about? It's right outside the church, and I encourage you when you leave to go look at it. It's right along Carr Street. You walk with it. I've walked with him. My wife and I walked with him also after his diagnosis. I know several in the room have. The police chaplain, who's Bob Dowling, couldn't make it today, walked with John. And it really was personal to John. It really was. It really gave him a lot of reflection. It gave him a lot of spiritual and calming, not even before his diagnosis, more importantly, after. For John, he asked me to tell you if you'd like, when you leave, and it's along Carr Street, to take a look at that. And I'm almost done, I promise. The last thing here is John loved carrot cake. We like donuts and peanuts. We're having carrot cake, right? All right, we're having carrot cake, John. So he loved that, and we're going to have carrot. So have a piece of carrot cake for John, which is what we talked about. But that was my friend John. And in conclusion, I just want to try to read one last thing, and I'll be done. To know John was to know passion. He engaged his causes every day. We smiled and laughed with him. He was quirky, sad at times, but that quirky side was fun to see and interact with him over. To know John was to know selflessness. He didn't get wrapped up in himself. John gave. John was a man of determination and inspiration. His qualities made him. His experience enhanced him. Our experiences with John enhanced us. John was definitely a unique person. God love him. He had a charming, fun spirit. He was enjoyable to be around. He had an infectious smile and demeanor. My good friend John will be missed. As I struggle to find the answers to the loss of John, I know that he's in a peaceful place. I will always be thankful for his friendship and will remember him forever. Thank you.
Jeff, I hate to tell you, but pink's your color. And I'll invite Kimber Betts to come up and read something for us.
Oof, hi. I'm not reading for me. I am actually reading for one of John's very good friends who's in New York. And it's really powerful. And I think all of you who knew him will be able to relate to this. This letter is from Chaplain Carrie Friedman. John called me in December of 2013 to invite me to be a faculty member of LESI. I was honored to be asked, and I accepted. We've spoken pretty much every week since then until his untimely passing. John quickly graduated from colleague to friend to brother. The basis of that relationship has always been my recognition of and admiration for John's extraordinary idealism, intellect, character, and the capacity to love. John's devotion to the worthy men and women in law enforcement never failed to inspire me. I like to think that I have both an appreciation of the difficulties of our heroes and heroines in law enforcement face and genuine desire to help them. But the limitless intensity with which John felt real palpable anguish when he considered the many officers who are in places of deep pain without a clear-cut way to get themselves out surprised even me. It was actually shocking and painful to him that people in positions of authority who had the power to make real, substantial contributions to the care and protection of their law enforcement charges were content instead of simply to check a box by providing inadequate, minimalistic training. The people who could and should serve the people who serve the people weren't always doing that. So John felt an urgent sense of responsibility to step in and provide the life-giving service. John had a keen, sharp intellect and a fertile, creative mind. His mind was usually racing with ideas, making surprising connections, and coming up with new insights. About every 2 weeks, his weekly call to me consisted of peppering me with ideas he had for genuinely innovative new programs. He'd describe a new model for training that he had envisioned. He'd tell me about a problem with the current models for training he identified, and he'd float an idea of a new model that was free of the problem he had identified. I marveled at his insight and creativity. He'd describe a handbook or a video course or interacting training program or a new consultancy endeavor, and my head would spin as I considered the implications of what he just said. He'd describe a half dozen totally new ideas, at the end of which he would say, "I've put these ideas into your head. I've planted the seeds. Made you restless, so my job is done. I'll let you go. Work on these." Integrity. John never cut a corner or compromised his integrity in any way. There are always new agendas and trends in law enforcement community, and John recognized them for what they usually were, fads. He wasn't interested in what he would call the flavor of the month training fads that came and went with surprising rapidity, contributing very little of value and leaving very little substance behind. The problem was, there's always lots of grants and government money available if you design a program around those fads. John never compromised his work, never packaged his training slickly in order to get in on these actions. He'd walk his own path, identifying what really worked, designed absolute best kinds of training from the very best ideas, techniques, and tools, and he refused to cheapen himself in order to get easy money. This was quite unlike what a lot of his colleagues did. My favorite, love. I felt John's respect and love for me always. He demonstrated it in all the time in countless ways. He called me every Friday to wish me Shabbat Shalom. He studied the unique and specific greetings that religious Jews offer each other before the various holidays throughout the year. And he learned how to say them all in Hebrew, and he pronounced them correctly. And before every holiday, he offered me the correct salutation and blessing. He lovingly entered my reality and related to me where I was most comfortable. One time at an international police conference with thousands of people in attendance, a speaker at the podium brazenly said something outrageously anti-Semitic. I was absolutely stunned and rendered speechless. John spoke up from his seat in the audience, clearly, decisively, unequivocally, immediately, in front of 14,500 people. He wouldn't stand for it. With integrity, dignity, restraint, but clear indignation, he chastised the speaker for his ignorance and intolerance. He didn't speak more than he had to. He zeroed right in on the issue and expressed his complete and total rejection of the speaker's ugly motivation in saying what he had said. John described me, praised my commitment to the high ideals of the law enforcement community, and even spoke out about his impressions of observing my family in action when he stayed with us on his trips to the East Coast. I turned to John, who was sitting next to me, and watched him in action. I felt like my dad, or my big brother, had just protected me. And that's really how I always looked at John. He was a protector for those who needed protecting, whatever the context, whatever the threat, whatever the cost to himself. Because principle, integrity, decency, and kindness were everything to him. His memory will forever be a source of blessing and inspiration in my life and in the lives of my family members who feel blessed to have known such an extraordinary man. Respectfully, Chaplain Carrie Friedman, Associate Director of the Law Enforcement Survival Institute. Thank you.
And I'll invite Rich and Franca to come forward, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Infranca. Most at the police department called me Rich because they were lazy. Anyway, I was a colleague of John's for about 23 years. But more importantly, he was my dear and lovely friend for 45 years. I wish they would have been 65 years. But God had other plans. When John became a police officer at the Westminster Police Department, I was one of his training officers. And he was assigned to me to be to help him along the road and learn the way and the process, all of those things you need to learn when you come out of the academy. Like how to wear your uniform. No, the badge goes on the other side. And turn it around. It's not for you to read, it's for the other people to read. Things like that you have to teach new officers. But it didn't take me long to notice that John wasn't like others I had trained. He was different. You know, new officers, they have all their bright and shiny gear on and they squeak when they walk because their leather's not broke in yet. And they just want to go out there and get the bad guy, put the bad guy away. Well, John had that quality too. But I noticed something very different about John. Yes, he was concerned about putting the bad guy away, but he had a great focus for the victims. Because that's John. He cared about the victim. Well, what do we do about them? How do we help them? And I said, John, we can't help everyone. If you know John, that's just not acceptable. Well, of course we can, right? But that was just John. John was ahead of his time when it came to law enforcement, especially. For those of you who are police officers out here, and it looks like, from what I can tell, most are retired now. I don't know if there's any active. But when John left the police department, he dedicated his last 20 or so years caring about you because he loved you and admired you. He'd been there. He lost someone very dear to him, who was a police officer. John wanted all police officers to be well. both physically and mentally. Because that job, depending on what you do in that job, if you really dedicate your life to that job, it can tear you up, and you don't know it. When I left the police department, I moved on now, and I'm in the mental health field. So John and I would talk a lot about that. And one of the things we talked about was, John, I hope you're successful in what you do. And it was a struggle, because in a police department, it's hard to change tradition and mindsets. It's hard, because we are a culture, and it's hard to change any culture like that. But John would not give up. He traveled all across the country. He traveled to, well, first of all, John's a world traveler anyway, but he traveled outside the country because he wanted officers to be well. We knew, and this may, I don't know if you're into statistics or not, but this just gives you an idea. If a police department has anywhere between 50 or 100 or more, 25% of those police officers are living with undiagnosed post-traumatic stress disorder. And what happens from that is you see behavior, broken marriages, drinking, and then some tragic endings for some. John didn't want that. He didn't want that 25%. He thought, we could probably get it down to 3%. Very optimistic, because you'll never get away from it all or get rid of it all. But that was his goal. He loved you. He truly did. He cared about you. He wanted the best for you. And I wish there were active officers in here, because hopefully that message would get to you and you start caring for yourself. But John was always happiest when he was at the police department doing what Jeff said. Jeff told me he was only take 2 minutes. Sorry, Brenda. Anyway, customer service. That's the part where John was ahead of the curve, so to speak, because everything was about customer service, his care for the victims. And as Jeff said, he was best when he was working in community services or crime prevention, because if you think about it, that's more of a customer service victim focus, isn't it? And that was John. Oh, I will share a story with you, a couple stories, or a couple incidents, I should say. If you're a police officer and you're out on the street and you're working with John and you're getting in trouble, you're facing it, no one's going to charge in faster than John to help you out. No one. I remember I was training another officer, and we were in a bar in Westminster, and hopefully Jeff remembers this, and the bar called to ask us to escort a person who was too intoxicated, and they wanted him out, 86 them. So we go in, me and my trainee. Come on, sir, let's go, time to go. Well, it's hard to negotiate with someone who is intoxicated, highly intoxicated. So it turned into a Donnybrook, and there we go, over the rail, onto some tables, and we're looking at him, we're wrestling with him. He was a big guy too, and we're wrestling with this guy and all this, trying to take him into custody, and all of a sudden I see all these people around us like this, and we're going, oh my gosh. And then I look up, there's John, and Jeff, and I forget who else, but that's John. No. You're not going to hurt one of mine. You're not. Very, very protective. If you were John's friend, he was totally loyal to you. Even after you pass, he's still going to be loyal to you. Jeff mentioned that we had coffee once about every 6-7 weeks, Jeff, about that. John insisted that we go to a coffee shop where one of our own who owned it after he retired had passed. Well, we're going to continue to support it. That's John. That's loyal John. If you're his friend, he will not abandon you. If you were his friend, he would do everything he could to help you. He never wanted his friends to be in need. Never. That was my good friend John. John, getting back to his care for the police officers, he took his time, as you heard already, traveling across the country, writing a book, and you'll see those little cards about your armor. And that armor, he wasn't talking about a bulletproof vest. The armor he was always talking about and preaching was he knew that officers needed to care for themselves, physically, mentally, have a social network, a support network, which most don't. Because in the cop field, nobody understands us but other cops. That's the attitude. At least it was for a long time. And so we have a tendency to always have cops as our friends. And John knew that wasn't healthy. We had to be out of that. So John worked extremely hard to do that, to get that training out, up against a lot of police departments and officers who were like, because it's uncomfortable. And people don't like to be uncomfortable, even if it's good, right? We don't like going to the dentist and having our mouth open, right? Because it's uncomfortable. But is it good for us? Yeah, it is. But we've talked about all of the things about John, and since none of us are perfect, he did have a pretty stubborn side to him. But here's the interesting thing about John. John always told me, he said, you know, you're always an inspiration. You've always been an inspiration in my life. And I'm like, why would I ever do? But it dawned on me. I would plant little seeds. And John would be like this. And then John would think about it. And unlike many people, if he changed his mind, he would come and tell you, you know, I took your advice, or I think you were right. Not a lot of people do that, right? They just say, okay, well, whatever. But when he changed his mind, he owned up to it. But that could take a while, right? Because he would really mill things over. I'm going to leave you one last thing, and it's a story about stubbornness. And you don't see John get angry very often, except for when we would sit and have coffee, and Jeff would bring up politics. Shame on Jeff. But anyway, so in the early 90s, we started a business, John and I, along with one other person. And I don't know if you remember this. If you have kids, you might remember. We started a POG business. People are laughing. POGs, believe it or not, they're just little paper discs that have printing on them, right? Cartoons, whatever on them. But in the 90s, those things were hugely popular. People became millionaires from that game. Well, John always had an entrepreneur side to him, so he said, yeah, well, let's look at it. Let's do that. Okay. And I said, because I had been to California visiting family, and it was all over California. You could buy gas, you get a POG. Buy Burger King, you get a POG. Everything was POG, POG, POG. And so I told him about that, and he said, well, yeah, we hadn't heard about it here in Colorado. So we take a trip to California, because that's where all the manufacturers are. And we meet with the manufacturers, pretend like we're big businessmen, have no idea what they're talking about. They said, oh yeah, we keystone them. Okay, whatever. But anyway, so we said, okay, now there is a big flea market. In California, they use the movie theaters, and they have these huge flea markets. And it's not like what we see here in Colorado. They're huge, and they sell everything. So we go and we come by this tent, and they're selling POGs. And there were a lot of people selling POGs, but this one seemed a little exclusive type. So we go in, and we're looking around, looking at all the POGs. POGs come in a sheet like this, and there's maybe 4 or 6 of them on a sheet. And John looks down, and his face just goes like this. It was a Disney POG. It was a sheet of Disney POGs. And I think the owner of that saw John's face light up, and he went. And he said, you like that? And he goes, yeah, I'm really into Disney. He goes, yeah, I don't know if you want to invest in this one, though. He goes, well, why not? And the man used the magic word, well, it's collectible. If you know John, whoa, collectible, right? So he goes, really? He goes, yeah, I think I may have the last one or two that they're ever going to produce. And John says, oh, really? And so he says, how much? And I think the guy started with like $45 or something like $45 for 4 or 6 of those pogs. And I think John felt good because he got him down to like $40, $35. So we're up, and John's happy because he's got his pogs. So next day, hey, we're in Anaheim. Let's go to Disneyland. Okay, we go to Disneyland. He's in heaven. Sorry, John, I didn't mean that. Anyway, but heaven on earth. He was on heaven and earth. And so we go to Disneyland, and we have a great time, and we're leaving. Oh, let's stop at a gift shop. Okay. We go to the gift shop. Guess what's there? $5.99. John was a little upset. He was fuming. But he wanted to go back right then. I said, John, they're closed. They're gone. He was fuming. But John, being the entrepreneur that he did, he was able to pass that on to someone else and recoup some of his money. He didn't get quite the 40, but he did recoup some of it. But that's John. Wonderful man. Fun. So proud to call him my friend and to have spent those 45 years with him. Rest in peace, my dear friend. You earned it.
Thank you, Richard. I've been told about John's sense of humor, so I'm going to just say this as Chris Manas comes forward. All of you have come up here with notes and then not read them, and then read them after. We're going to get to our lunch about 4 hours later, so hang in there, get comfortable, and here comes our last speaker.
Sorry, I bring props. Well, I'm here to talk about the lighthearted side of John. My name is Chris Manos. I worked at Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department, but some of you at Westminster probably thought I worked for you guys too, because I was over there quite a bit. I met John 42 years and 1 day ago. Yesterday was our 42nd anniversary. When Brenda told me the news of John's passing, I was on a cruise ship, and she said, could you write about 3 or 4 sentences about John? So all I had is my phone, and I'm on my phone tapping. And then when I went to the cruise ship business office to print it out, it was 6 pages. So there I'm on the phone again, trying to delete, and it ended up being 3 or 4 paragraphs. I couldn't get 3 sentences down, guys. Jeff, thanks for covering some of the stuff I was going to talk about. Richard, I'm not lazy. I'm not going to call you Rich. Thanks for covering some of the things I was going to talk about. So I'm going to read just a little bit of what I wrote, okay? Put the glasses on now. We're getting a little bit older. So this is what I kind of wrote. John had a passion for compassion. His love of fellow man permeates through all he has accomplished in life. He kept children safe with puppet shows, magic shows, and child safety talks. As a police officer, he excelled and went way beyond the duties of a crime prevention officer, taking on national and international leadership roles voluntarily. He continued in private life with his developments of Cops Alive. That was a multifaceted offering of resources for the police community, experiencing depression or coping with distressful situations. And the Law Enforcement Survival Institute. Both are hard sells to police departments, but John continued to pursue in convincing police chiefs and sheriffs that these services are really needed in the career field. Some of you may know, but may not, that John took up this cause when he met a mutual friend of ours, a deputy sheriff at Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, who took his own life unexpectedly, and nobody could figure out why. I'm going to pause between the next paragraph. I feel I am responsible for this monster book and the Law Enforcement Survival Institute, because this got all started because of a guy named Bob Dale. Bob was a really good friend of mine, scuba diver. I introduced him to Bob. We spent a week in Florida with Bob, and he was just one of those wonderful, exciting people you just want to be with, you know? And why he took his life, nobody knows. But it hit John really bad, you know? He didn't know what to do with it. So he started the Law Enforcement Survival Institute, Cops Alive, and everything that many of you know about John right now. Yeah, so you'll see, I believe, right, those pictures are in this next video coming up. Okay, you'll see pictures of Bob in the boat. You'll see a lot of pictures I submitted from some of these little stories I'll tell you about. So I'm going to continue on. As a friend, John joined in some of the most amazing adventures and misadventures, many of which continue to amuse others who are fortunate and patient enough to listen to our stories. There are so many pranks we pulled on others with comedic results, and some we accidentally created on our own to ourselves. The shortest story I can share, written in here, is John wanting to take a shortcut to a police club called the Cuff and Billy in Calgary. Getting lost, he drove our rental car on railroad tracks, stopping at a platform. Looking up at the people waiting for the train, he asked for directions to the place. The reply was, "Sir, you're not supposed to be here." Nonetheless, he went past the little train thing, and we found a back way into the Cuff and Billy without getting run over by a train. So I'm going to show you a friend of ours, okay? I brought him along. Steve McDonald, where are you? Raise your hand. Steve, can you tell me who this guy is?
Hello, Steve. One of your old friends. Steve? Come on, Steve.
His name is Trouble. Yeah, so he goes, oh yeah, Trouble, yeah. Trouble is one of our really cool friends. He was the character, and I think he was sort of like a little bit of me and a little bit of John built in together. So good old Trouble. Okay, Steve, now I'm not going to have you ask this one. I'm going to see if the audience knows this one. Who is it? McGruff. Take a bite out of crime. Yeah. This was one of our other puppets that we used a lot. We did these amazing puppet shows. Steve was actually helping us out on the puppet shows. You'll see John at the Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus. Steve, myself, John, who else was there? We were the guest ring masters. Remember that. You'll see those pictures. John was an amazing person. I have like so many million stories, and I'm not going to... You got to go to dinner sometime, don't you?
I have to work tomorrow.
The heck with the lunch part, right? So there are people right now streaming this tomorrow. In Belgium, they're watching this. In England, they're watching this, right? It's tomorrow already, and they're staying up just for this. We have friends all over the world through the Muscles for Charity. It's another group that was formed by our good friend in England, who now lives in Seattle. And Brenda's been on a couple of our missions where we actually help raise money for different charities. We don't actually raise the money. We do the work, and the people make a donation to their favorite charity. And we spend our own money doing that, don't we? We fly ourselves, we pay for hotels if we need to, and we do that. And so John was really, really actively involved in that. John was really involved in crime prevention. We have countless awards. I didn't see any of them on the table, but we have countless awards that we won because we tried to be the best that we could possibly be. And we took up leadership roles in the international societies and also the national societies. John wanted to do the best he possibly can to kind of help people, and that's what he's done all along in his life, right? So, trying to keep some of this. John's stories are in every one of the books I wrote. There's either a picture and a story of John. Matter of fact, Thursday I did a lecture, and John's in the book, in the pictures, okay? I do a lecture about Doug Henning, the magician. Some of you may or may not remember it, but in some of the slides you'll see John and me with Doug Henning. And there's stories there, and those are way too long to talk about. So later on, if you want to ask me, you can do that. Let me share a couple of little other stories. We like to prank people. Our good friend John Bishop that was the person I was just talking about from England, was a commander, a very proper British person, amazing spokesperson. And we used him as a spokesperson for many of the crime prevention talks that we had. We were doing one of the Muscles for Charity job, what story am I on now? Oh my gosh, I already forgot what story. No, that wasn't the right one. I'm sorry. So this was a Dirty Muscles job. John got with me for his 50th birthday. He wanted to go to Disney World. And I'm as much of a Disney enthusiast as John is. Matter of fact, I have a Disney museum, okay? He wanted me to take him and show him around to Disney World. Okay. I called John up and said, John, the three of us, he and his girlfriend, and that was his wife at the time, he wants just me and just the two of them to have a nice intimate trip to Disney World. So John says, okay, we got this covered. So not only John and me, we made phone calls to all of his friends, and we probably had about 17 people there at Disney World to surprise him on his birthday. Totally unplanned on his part, right? So John and I are walking after we had dinner. This is the day before you're supposed to be surprised. We're walking down this pathway, a bunch of 4-foot hedges onto the side, and we see John and Glenna. Now, to get John Bishop and the Johns mixed up, we call them Fish and Bish, because their name is Glenna Trout and John Bishop, so Fish and Bish, that's how we refer to them. They're coming this way down the road. Oh, getting hungry for dinner? Yeah, I'm sorry. So they're coming down the road, right? And John, you can't be here. So he jumps on top of the bushes, upside down, turtled on top of the bushes. And they come up and they go, oh, Chris, you're here. That's great. Oh, we're so happy to see you. Yeah, we'll go talk tomorrow and stuff like that. And we're talking for about 5 minutes. And I could hear John in the bushes. And they're right there, almost like right next to us. And I finally get him to walk away, and we start walking away a little bit. Then I hear this thud, and John, I look at the side of my eyes, he falls over onto the sidewalk, and I thought, oh my God, what happened? And then he rolls onto the grass and hides behind a tree. That's John. You guys don't know this crazy guy, John. His penny story. I'm going to end with this penny story, because it's just too much. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okay, one more thing. The casino thing. You put this in the obituary when I read it. The casino thing. These are the coins that he had to collect. We went to Las Vegas, Richard, just like you went Pogville. Neither of us are gamblers. We hate to lose money. But John wanted to get these things. They're called silver strikes, and you have to get them on a certain slot machine. And the center part is silver, 999 silver. And it comes out, and you can actually get $10 back for it. But it cost about $20 to get one. We went to every single casino on the Strip, then down Fremont, then crossed over Dean Martin to Dean Martin Parkway, which was only for vehicles only, no pedestrians allowed. We almost killed ourselves then, just to get these stupid coins. We were so sore because we started at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we ended about probably 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, just to get these coins. So that's the casino story coin. Dinner's coming up. And then the last story, the stupid penny thing. Oh my God. I'm sorry. This book is beautiful. It's a great book, okay? I threw, there's a little basket of pennies out there. Please grab some. Thanks, Jeff, for covering that part. But he always wanted those new pennies, didn't he? Right? We're in England. Pennies are about 2 cents each in England, and when you convert them over. He bought a brick of pennies. That's 22 pounds of pennies. He got with the Bank of London, made an appointment at 9 o'clock in the morning to pick up these pennies. We get the pennies, and now we're walking around England, London area, for probably 8 to 10 hours, each carrying a stupid bag of pennies. Our shoulders are sore, our fingers are sore, our arms are sore, our backs are sore. 22 pounds. Then we get to the airport to get through security. Now, John and I have a lot of security issues, okay? There's the boot knife incident where he was bringing his boot knife onto the plane. That one they didn't let him keep. Then there was the other fiasco was the coup baton. The police officers know what that is. That was the little tiny baton, which was a arrest control technique, training officer. That was on a keychain that we got back from one of our conferences. He brings that onto the plane. Nope, that ain't gonna happen either. Then there was the handcuffs. You're not allowed to bring handcuffs on a plane, John. But that's okay. And then there was the salsa. Brenda, you were there for the salsa incident. He brought salsa back for Patrick. And actually, he got that one through. It was a liquid, and they told him we couldn't take it. And then, with his charm and amazing charm, he got that through. But the pennies, you can't take rolls of pennies on an airplane because they can be used as like a weapon. So we had to go out of security. I already passed security. Out of security, and we had to unroll the 50 rolls of pennies that are factory sealed, British pennies. 50 rolls do not go back in the box. So, but first of all, knowing John is the collector, he had to unwrap each one of those so that they were pristine wrappers so he could put them back in the wrappers when he got home. That wasn't going to work either. After about 20 of those, which took our plane's going to be leaving soon, folks. We ended up having to break the rolls of pennies flying all over the concourse. They didn't fit in the box, so it was what we could put in the box. Everything else was just dumped in our backpacks, and we finally got through security. So grab some pennies on your way out, put them in your pocket, and every time you see a place to drop a penny, drop that penny. And they are good luck, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm almost done. I'm at Casa Bonita, near Casa Bonita at a gas station, and I see a penny laying down there. Brand new shiny penny. I go, oh crap, John's been there. I pick up the phone. John, were you just over at the gas station so-and-so? Yeah, I just left. I said, oh, hey, let's have lunch. We had lunch. He paid for it. It was a lucky day for me. Thanks, guys.
Oh, leave me alone.
Okay, don't worry, you're in there. Sorry. But I talked less than the other guys did.
You did talk a little less. As long as I can preach tomorrow morning. We're going to watch a video of some pictures of John. And for those that are watching online, you can't hear the music because of copyright. So the songs are Tears in Heaven, Heaven Was Needing a Hero, and One More Day, if you want to play those along while we watch the video. Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In the beginning, he was with God. All things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overtake it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, is coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, and yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood or of the will of the flesh, but of the will of man, or the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and lived among us. And we have seen his glory, the glory as of the Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. Amen. I invite you to open the hymn. You can stay seated, but open it to 707. We're going to just sing the first verse. It is a really, really beautiful hymn. I was going to cut it short, but we're going to have to do the third verse. All right. In our end is our beginning, in our time infinity, in our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity, in our death a resurrection, at the last a victory, unrevealed. Something God alone can see. As I talked to the family about this message, I asked what scripture would they like. And Vera said, what about the beginning of the book of John? Okay, that's a bold choice for a memorial service, but I'm down with trying it. And what an enlightening, amazing passage it is, and particularly for a memorial service. Yes, the book is called the Book of John. It's the boldest of the gospel accounts of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. It also begins by talking about a man named John the Baptist, who came on the scene before Jesus. John pointed the way to Jesus. John had quite a following. He baptized folks, he preached, and he taught. In another account, he said, I baptize with water, but the one who comes will baptize with the Holy Spirit. He knew his place in life and in history, and he was to do the good work and prepare those around him for the coming of the Lord. Does that sound like you're John? Doing the good work day after day, the Pied Piper of followers wanting to do the things that he did. Putting in the work day after day on the force, and once he retired, he did the good and right things still. By being the public information officer and creating the Law Enforcement Survival Institute, the Cops Alive, and all the charitable work that we heard about today. He cared in a way that was rare to most people. He cared so deeply for others, particularly those who had seen darkness and dark things in their lives. Our scripture talks about light and darkness. It says, what has come into being in him was life, and it was light to all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overtake it. Jesus is the light that came into a messy world that often had and still has darkness in it. And the truth is that John saw a lot of dark throughout his career and worked so hard to bring light not only to those that were in pain, the colleagues and comrades, but to bring light to those who saw a need for an organization like the one he founded. We've long associated light with life and shadows with death. If you think about Psalm 23, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. But today we're here to celebrate and honor the light that John was and brought to you and to this world. And even though John may not have been particularly religious, he did live a life of love and selflessness and joy. It looks a lot like following Jesus, following the Word with a big W. That was a part of God before the world was formed. And then the Word became flesh in Jesus, and he showed up, and he showed us how to love and care and heal one another's, and how to die for the ones that we love. John wasn't here in this place on Sundays, but he certainly lived out his life of love and light and goodness, and apparently in the labyrinth. Which brings me to the connection with something that is important to the family, how life and death are viewed in Native American traditions. Death is considered a natural part of life, and the customs for the dead in this specific Native American communities was typically to prepare the soul for the spiritual journey, for the spirit to walk on. Death as a transition, just another part of the circle of life, not the end. And this perspective is often characterized by a belief in the soul's eternal journey, a deep connection to nature and the community, and the idea that death is a passage to join ancestors and other spirits. I too believe that there is a circle of life, of existence, that John is no longer here physically on earth. This part of his journey is done, but John's spirit lives on or walks on somewhere else. To me, as a Christian pastor, that somewhere is heaven. He's probably greeted by his parents and other loved ones who are waiting for his arrival. In other traditions, John's spirit lives on in trees and in the earth, or in you and me, and possibly a dog puppet. Light shines in the darkness of your sadness or your hurt with how John is gone. The light of John's life and of Jesus' continues through you and through me. John's light continues through the programs that he started and the ones that he spearheaded. John's light continues to shine in the darkness, and the darkness has not, cannot, and will not ever overcome it. I invite you once again to get out your hymnal. We're going to look at, this is maybe a John funny, number 666. I know. It's shalom to you. We're going to sing this one time through. Shalom to you now. Shalom, my friends. May God's full mercies bless you, my friends. behalf of John's family, I'd like to thank you so much for being here today, for joining us, for your support and for your encouragement, for your words and your good wishes. And we hope that you'll join us in our center. It's a little ways away from here. You're going to pass some bathrooms and then head down to our large fellowship hall. There's a lot of good food, and we'd love to have you join us, and carrot cake. So join us down there after the benediction. Hear this benediction. May God give you his comfort and his peace, his light and his joy in this world and in the next. And the blessing of the God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. May God be among you and with you and in you in this world and in the next. Amen.